Thank you so much for joining. I see some of you guys are already popping in. I hear, are we live yet? I don't see anything. You guys, you're going to love this session. I am talking to Rebecca Scritchfield. She is an RD. So those of you guys who are like, is this just something that Kiki made up about us eating more? There are dietitians who are against dieting, who are anti-diet, who are anti-extremes, and we're going to discuss some of those. So with all that being said, I want to dive into something that I actually shared of yours yesterday, Rebecca, and I want to give you some space to talk about that. I shared a post that you did maybe last week on Whole30. A little bit of controversy there, you know, with some of the people who feel like, oh, but I'm just doing it for health. And I feel like you kind of were speaking to that just a few minutes ago, how you were saying that a lot of the stuff that you did legitly started with health. But I feel like in a lot of ways, we kind of tie these things together. Like we say, I'm only doing it to be healthy. And one of the things that I like to bring to light is the fact that what if being healthy meant you were 10 pounds heavier? What if being healthy meant you didn't lose a pound? Would you still want to be healthy? Because I think that helps us to, you know, to really come to that place of what am I really doing this for? Because sometimes I think we can hide behind health when we really want to be skinny. So can you just talk to us a little bit about some of the stuff that you said in that post about Whole30 or things like it?
Yeah. So I'm starting with the idea that with respect to my body kindness philosophy, I say that nobody can tell you what body kindness is or isn't. Not even me. You know, because anytime you have external rules applied to you, it can engage a rebellion. And ultimately, you are the wise owner of your body, and you do know what is good for you. And you know, body kindness can change day to day. When you're struggling, what might feel like body kindness, you know, you might judge as like, that's not good enough. But actually, your compassionate side is like, no, this is good enough for right now. We can always kind of go back to something else tomorrow. So that's really important to say in advance, because as you mentioned, some people are like, yeah, you know, I'm just doing something, you know, for health. So before I kind of like, you know, throw Whole30 totally under the bus and run over it, I want to say that, yeah, to those who are like, it's working for me, I love it. I'm really not talking to you, because for you, doing Whole30 is body kindness. And it's not really my job to try to say all these reasons why you are wrong. You know, I am more trying to talk to people who get the messages that Whole30 is a good thing. And maybe you've tried it and it was not a good experience. You know, for example, I'll come two clients who did Whole30. One came back to me after doing Whole30 and she's like, you know, I just miss rice, right? So she's a runner who needs carbs. You know, we all need carbs. We need carbs in our brain. She's a runner and she is of Asian descent, right? And so now we're talking about an ethnically, culturally, you know, fully meaningful food. And she couldn't have it because she had to do Whole30.
Yes.
You know? And then somebody else came and was like, you know, I did it post-baby, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, you know, I made it through the 30 days. And then I was doing something that my mom and I normally do every month where we try new desserts. And it's normally fun and joyful. And we were doing donuts. And it was my job to go and get the donuts. And so I had these 5 different gourmet donuts that we were going to taste. You know, like nibble on, you know, almost like a wine tasting, but with donuts. So it sounds great to me, huh? But anyway, got the donuts, had them in the house. She binged on all of them. And it was day 31 of Whole30 where she had no sugar, and restriction leads to binge, right? And when I go back in the research, there's probably earlier studies, but there was a study in the mid 90s that talked about the restriction and binge connection. And so again, you know, for her, like she had this meaningful thing that she used to do with her mom, but when she felt this body shame post-baby, she thought, well, maybe Whole30 is the healthy thing to try. And, you know, kind of dug her heels in and all that holding on you have to do during the dieting. And then just you have no structure for day 31, and you're around this something that's so appealing, and you feel like you can't control yourself.
Right.
You are not the problem. The restriction was the problem that was in the post, and that restriction leads to binge. And then other people commented on my posts. Some were fellow dietitians who said, look, I had somebody with type 1 diabetes who was told to do Whole30 for health for diabetes, and ended up in the hospital with a low blood sugar. It was 30 some. I mean, that's so low, like life-threatening low. So, where is this person getting the information from? A chat room, a doctor, who knows? But it is clearly not good information for these people who are saying it caused me harm. And it can get really twisted in our diet culture that because we have this high value on health, like health is something we should be doing and should be performing, right? We get judged if we're not showing people how healthy we are. And just look at Instagram and all the fit stuff. Right? Look at me doing health, right? And so because that's such a high cultural value, and weight and shape and appearance is aligned with health, that's how we judge health, right? So we have those two things really pushing us to say, if I'm a good person, this is how I conform. I need to look a certain way and I need to act a certain way. And so that's what allows things like Whole30 to be so popular. It is so attached to our belief system of our value as a person that if somebody says, this is what you need to do for health, it must be true. I won't challenge it. I'm just going to put all my available resources, time, money, energy, mental health. I will give it all for you, all in, if you just promise me that I can belong. So really participating in dieting is wanting to belong. And that's why we have to get rid of the diet culture. And in order to do that, what we actually need to be advocating for is everybody's individual right to take up space, including if that means being at a higher weight. At a higher weight body, in our country, we use the word fat as an insult. Fat to me is a descriptor, right? And we need to make space for people at all weights without the judgment of good or bad. And that will help us reduce the need for things like Whole30. And then we can focus on what really matters in our own well-being, mental and physical health.
Right. Oh my gosh, you just opened up so much there, so much. Because first of all, like when, my own rabbit hole of going down, like really orthorexic tendencies of just like removing everything from the house and watching what, my family ate everywhere we went, like regulating what they like, why are you eating that? And he can't have that. And you know what I mean? And really doing that. And my husband is of Asian descent. So that really struck something because I remember forcing brown rice on my family. Like we cannot have white rice. It's so horrible for you, and really stripping that away, whereas I wasn't a huge rice person. So for me, that wasn't a big deal, but that really, it changed the way I could interact at my mother-in-law's house, the way that she could provide food for my son. Like my son would have these like freak out sessions at her house, like, oh my gosh, it's white. Nana, we can't eat white stuff. You know what I mean? Like
you're dumping it in the sink.
Yeah, like all these things that I had perpetuated by being so bad that, really having to take a step back, like that was one of those areas that even I had to challenge myself on, like, how healthy is this really? Like mentally, that was not healthy. And the stress that was causing in and of itself reduces any health effects. I mean, because really even the nutritional stats of brown rice isn't that huge. It's not that huge. So to take on such an extreme approach over something that was so little that actually caused, like my husband Joy, like he grew up with just white rice, just always sitting around the house. Like that's what he did. That's you go in the house and you just grab a bowl of white rice. And to be able to look at things from that perspective was a huge mindset shift. Like we talked about, really challenging some of the things that what I thought was being healthy and what I thought was like, I'm trying to change and make everyone healthier. And then also what you talked about with Instagram. Like I remember the shift when I posted my first like donut or, cupcake or something on Instagram, like, oh my gosh, what are all of my, Fit Pro friends gonna say? But that was me trying to put my flag in the sand of like, it's okay. Like, this is fine. And so now I post a lot of junk food and I got a lot of unfollows from all my clean eating fam, but that's okay. It's okay because, you have to create that space. And I have to create the space for the person who, sure, they like to lift weights and sure, they like to eat donuts and maybe they like to go for a run now and then. And sometimes they like to eat cupcakes at their son's birthday party. Like and we have to have room for that. So I see some of the comments that are popping in that someone said that could have been divorced for me taking that advice. It really could have, because you're just going down that rabbit hole and you're not really paying attention to how the other people in your life are involved. And that's why I said that's one of the things that we really want to bring to light and try to help us to put this guard down, because we are sometimes bringing up a guard between us and the people we love and the things we really want to do. Like with your client, that they try to do this thing with their mom. We'll have the donut tasting. I'm down for that. If anyone wants to go on a donut tasting with me, I'm down. So let's do it. But taking that and making that something that is harmful to them or that feels harmful, like I'm hurting my body, or they end up binging, which now they are kind of hurting their body. So it takes you from the other extreme. So the all or nothing thinking, like that's a big issue with diet culture. I feel. How do you feel about, do you think that that's something that triggers it? Is on again, off again with the diets, or?
So with dieting gains its power because it creates a deep need, right? So I'm not good enough as I am right now. This is a pain point. And it promises life will be so much better if you just do this, right? And we actually believe that promise. We feel hope. And just from that visual of that imaginary better life, or how your body would look after losing whatever pounds on Whole30 or whatever kind of thing, that visual actually sends a dopamine reward to your brain. This says, this would be good. This would be good if this happened to me. So we're actually not thinking rationally. We're emotionally sold on the vision of what I can't have as I am right now. I must work to achieve through depriving my body. And so it's very, 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 very twisted, right? So, the whole all or nothing thing from diet culture, that's just people trying to figure out, well, what do we need to do to manipulate people's bodies to get results? Right. So way back, calorie counting, even like today's popular with like paleo and other things, keto, you can actually find videos from like the 1950s of doctors doing these little videos and saying, do this, do that. It's paleo, it's keto. It's like, it's everything old is new again. It is repackaged. But there was this, belief that came actually through the advertising industry. Okay. When they, the penny scale used to be a novelty, like at movie theaters. Put a penny in and see what you weigh, like tee-hee, like a joke. Mm-hmm. They got it small enough to fit in the bathroom, and they're like, but there's no need for this scale. So they had to create a need through advertising. And so they did this ad of this woman, and it said, health, happiness, success, weigh yourself daily, because they had to create a prescription. Mm-hmm. It had nothing to do with the medical field at all. Right. It came through advertising. And then when the medical field bought into Weight and Health Association, that really screwed us up. But the way we've learned, well, you control weight through restriction. Right. But it never studied people, very few studies on people, never really studied long-term to show weight cycling. You have to study people for 2 years. And Tracy Mann has the best research and book about her work that shows that for over 80% of the people, they regain their weight even more. And some will regain even more above that. And the more times you diet, the higher your body mass index is likely to climb. But for sales and marketing, they don't really give a crap about long-term results, and they don't care about your mental health and well-being. They're there to sell a book, a program, a plan, a pill, a this, a that. And that it is, so it's wrapped up into money or power that needs to keep you vulnerable. So it's like, I mean, Naomi Wolf talked about it in The Beauty Myth, and it's like the beauty myth still. It's about beauty, it's about weight, it's about health, it's about appearance. It's really about power and keeping primarily women obedient to this pressure of trying to be thin. And that sort of all or nothing black and white that diet books perpetuate, it's the formula. We have to tell them they're not good unless they lose, and we're going to give them the plan to lose, and it's going to fly off the shelves.
Wow. Yeah, and that really is where we are right now. Because like we were talking about in the beginning, you know, I cannot tell you how many clients have this like excruciating fear of going to the doctor's office because they're going to be weighed. And it's like, you know, and because we're doing this constant work behind the scenes, it's okay. This isn't the ultimate measure of your health. You know, like you don't really know what's happening behind the surface. Like you're lifting weights now, you're allowing yourself to eat food. Your body reacts differently to different foods. Like it's all good. And while they're working to overcome that, you know, sometimes they will see these extreme jumps in the scale because they're having to go get weighed on the scale because of the amount of stress that starts compounding within their body is, you know, it's sad. And it's so hard to see them go through that, you know, or they'll come back and they'll be like, well, my blood pressure was super high and my doctor told me that it's because of my weight. Well, you were stressed about your weight for 3 weeks leading to this doctor's appointment, weigh-in, you know, and a lot of times that's the thing that people like, we're not connecting the two. So then we just we're creating this circle that's really just perpetuating more of the same, because even though they were trying to work through that when they go in, now it's confirmed that my weight is the problem. My weight is what caused my blood pressure to be high. My weight is why I'm having these issues with my joints. My weight is why I need to lose weight, or at least, you know, or I'll have to have surgery. And, you know, and not saying anything with, you know, doctors, I love you, but I'm just saying sometimes we go to the weight as the excuse way too quickly.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the most generous assumption I can make about doctors is that they are unaware of the evidence around weight and health. And, you know, who knows, it could be related to the curriculum. It could be related to the business of weight loss surgeries that infiltrate medicine. It could be related to the fact that they are so busy. Appointments are 3 minutes. They really don't do the behavioral stuff, you know, so maybe on their mental health screening, you know, it's set up to maybe pick up a significant depression that would cue a referral for psychologists or psychiatrists. You know, so there's all these types of problems that make it hard for doctors to really see the evidence. So they end up being perpetuators of weight stigma rather than reducing weight stigma. And, you know, the Hippocratic Oath is do no harm. Right. And so if doctors can be more self-reflective about how helpful am I being, you know, and they don't have to do the actual work to help that person behaviorally, but to be more open to the idea that, you know, just saying lose weight or try this or that plan may actually not be helpful to people in the long run. So that's the most generous thing I could say about doctors, is that they simply don't have the information and the experience to help them better help their patients so they can move forward with a better life, which may mean staying at a higher weight body, right? With, you know, the same advice you give a thin person. That's a great thing to ask at the doctor. Tell me the advice you give a thin person. Because I have had clients who like, I have an earache, lose weight. Oh, I think I sprained my ankle, lose weight. You know, she's like, will you do an x-ray? Oh, I see a hairline fracture. So it's like, that you get these bad stories. And so what happens is people avoid going to the doctor. But in truth, right, if we look at the chain, genetics is the biggest predictor way bigger than behavior and habits. And I'm a habit person.
Right.
It's the bigger predictor. I can't lie. Right. And it sets up for like risks. And then through your habits, you have a certain amount of control over whether or not certain genes would be expressed. And so you do the best you can within those habits. You do your body kindness within those habits. But genetics may have another plan for you anyway. But that's why you look for the other reasons of how doing those things are helpful. Do they give you energy? Do they help you sleep? Do they help you digest food better? Do you have, good poops? Yay! For good poops. There's lots of reasons outside of appearance to do behavior change, to do self-care, and, with flexibility, right? Lots of reasons. And you do the best you can. Another factor is somebody's income level. And we often assume that you can afford any expensive meal, whatever it might be, and it just might not be accessible. If you think about somebody's, like what kind of job do they have? Is it that flexible? Do they have time to plan and prep meals? Can they afford what is being recommended? It can be very, very draining. And so the reality of it is that a well-being for somebody who has a lower economic status, right, needs to be within their means, or this external pressure that you apply on what it means to be healthy is actually going to be even more harmful to their health and well-being, regardless of what choice you really want them to make, because you've applied too much stress and made it completely not doable at that economic level. And so it really does need to be considered, and that's something doctors should know about too. What is something that is doable and realistic for that each individual patient I have and I can see?
Yeah, absolutely. And you phrase that nicer than I, typically my response is that, doctors are trained in trauma, not necessarily prevention. So a lot of times the gut reaction to, I stubbed my toe, you need to lose weight. Like, I just feel like we need to look deeper into that. But I love that perspective of what would you tell me if I was thinner? Because that's usually the thing that I'm trying to bring to light when someone's, because, it really does affect the same way how we talked about in the beginning. If I'm telling someone like, hey, no, it's okay, eat more. Oh, you're hungry? That's fine. If you were hungrier today, eat more today. And we're saying those things and they go to a dietitian that says, nope, slash your calories. It's the same issue with maybe we'll be, doing some work in the weight room and the doctor says like, okay, either stop squatting, lose weight. And it's like, I don't know if those are solutions, because what if it was a skinny person? Then, maybe they would have told them to stop squatting, but losing weight wouldn't have been the issue. And it can change a person's entire perspective, whereas they may be really taking on some healthy behaviors. But now the focus is so high on, I need to lose weight like yesterday, that we will do some really extreme things when we really truly believe that the answer and the key and the solution to feeling better lies in the fact that I need to drop 50 pounds or I need to drop 75 pounds. Because if you ultimately feel like I'm willing to do whatever it takes to feel better, then that means that you will do these extreme things, even if you know they're harmful to you, even if you know that there's a risk of like, oh, well, I'll probably gain it back. You'll tell yourself, maybe this time I won't, and you just kind of still feed into it because you're just trying to fix your problem and you're being told that is the problem. Yeah. So I really I love that perspective. And I think that's something like, guys, if you take one thing away, especially any of my clients that are on here that you face that fear of going to the doctor, remember that. So one of the big things also and we have a mutual friend, Leslie Schilling, and she comes and talks to my Crushing the Diet Mentality workshop people. And one of the things that she talked to them about is how to refuse to be weighed, when you go to the doctor's office, because a lot of people aren't even aware that they can, she's like, if you're not getting anesthesia, tell them you don't need to be weighed, and that's really hard for a lot of people because they feel like, I can't stand up to my doctor, I can't refuse to be weighed. But I've seen a lot of people really, have a lot of power after the first one or two times of doing that. And some of them, they still get a little flack from their doctor, and that's, it is what it is. But knowing that it's not fully associated with your health. So I really like to like I say, have dietitians on that can talk a little bit more to the BMI thing, because that's really what it comes down to, is when there starts to be that battle, that internal battle of like, I do think I need to do this because my BMI is too high. Like,
yeah, no, that's a total BS measurement. And I mean, what we are learning even more recently in research is how the body defends its weight range. So Sandra Amit is a neuroscientist who talks about the body's defended weight range. And we're learning more about the neuroscience behind how and why it does it. It's basically a survival mechanism. Thank goodness we are here because we had strong ancestors. That's the bottom line. No matter what size a person is walking around this planet today, they are existing because their ancestors had the good genes. That's the bottom line. And what happens is, in the short term, you can cut somebody's calories and they will have short-term weight loss. And then what happens is the brain takes over and it creates what's called a homeostatic drive to eat. And all that basically means is it will increase urges, focus on food, thinking of food, to the levels of whatever it needs to do until you bring your calories back up. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about deprivation leading to binge, it is part of that is the body's coming from the brain. It's a signal outside of your consciousness. You have no control over it. When those signals come, it will get you to focus and do whatever you need to do until you cycle your weight back up. And so, understanding that these things aren't about willpower or me failing. And the thing that I really, really, really want to get across about weight, especially with respect to body kindness, is that the philosophy is more about giving up on the idea that you control your weight. It's about letting go. Mm-hmm. And so it's about accepting what is, right? So even if you want to change things, what you work on is changing your actions. You focus on what are body kindness actions that I can take, that feel good to me, that I like, that bring me interest, that fulfill my interests and bring me joy. Make those choices. While even if I want to lose weight, like here it is, here's my desire to lose weight, I'm going to let that be there while I do body kindness anyway. So it's your willingness to give up the idea that you control your weight. When you let that go, your mind, your energy, your focus is so much more available to you to think about your caregiver voice, your well-being, what would help me feel good today, and make those types of choices. And that is what you do get to focus on when you're not doing the weight loss diet. So that's everyone's number one fear. What the hell am I supposed to do when
I do if I stop dieting? Like, what happened? This is all I've done for 20 years.
Exactly. I had that. It's very scary. It's your identity and you don't know. You don't even know, is there anything out there? And the book is full of these things. They're called spiral ups, mm-hmm. which are things that, the downward spiral where you feel more narrow and closed off and isolated. And it's, when, negative emotions lead to poor, inner critic thought, bully type judgments, which lead to poor choices, which lead to more negative emotions. And you kind of feel, oh, I need something to save me. I need this diet. Well, spiraling up is about noticing those negative emotions, or noticing when something is off and saying, it's okay to be here. What's one choice I can make that will help me spiral up? And so each chapter has a spiral up. There's spiral ups throughout the chapter. And it's this visual idea of like, okay, in this moment right now, what is body kindness? What choice can I make that helps at least neutralize that downward spiral? It's not like, oh, I'm having a really bad day. Must be happy. Right. Not body kindness. No, I am having a bad day. And I want to go
and not be okay.
and binge eat in my car, or whatever. But here's what I will do. I'm having a bad day. It's okay. I am really craving fast food. But what I will do is I will go and I will get what I really want. I will drive it home. I will pull out a plate. I will light a candle. I will put the food that I want on the plate. And I will take some deep breaths and I will focus on tasting that food that I'm craving. I will eat it slowly. I will eat it calmly. I will eat it with full permission. And if at any point I feel like I can't take care of my body in this moment, I will pause and I will give myself time to take care of my body. You know, that's an option. It could be an option of, you know what, I'm going to make plans with a friend to go out to eat or get some other food later. I'm going to wallow in my self-pity for a little bit and then get over it. You know, it's okay to be here. I'm going to watch some TV. You know, that crappy thing happened, but I don't have to let it push me further in a downward spiral. That would be a better example.
Yeah, I think that is such an amazing space to live from versus, you know, because a lot of times, you know, we know that, okay, I need to be kinder to my body. I need to love myself where I am or whatever, you know, and we'll have these moments where we realize like, okay, I can't keep experiencing this. But we also have the flip side of those moments where we beat ourselves up when we do feel something, you know, and it's okay to have those feelings. So, and that's one of the things that, you know, that's why I love the message behind body kindness. And there's, you know, in the Crushing the Diet Mentality workshop, we bring in psychologists, and that's the same thing that they're saying is like, you know, you can have these feelings. It's okay. Lean into the fact that you have this feeling. Don't run away from it and act like it doesn't exist, because what you resist persists. So then it's just going to keep like showing itself in your face. Like, I'm here, you can't ignore me. And then you can't really get away from it. So then you just take the cycle that you're trying to walk away from of the eating and binging and beating ourselves up over that, and we just transfer it into our body kindness journey, you know, of like, I'm trying to be kind. I was just mean to myself. I suck. And so, you know, it can be just transfer from one thing to the other. So it really is about going deeper. And that's why I really, really like, you know, what you do with the spiral ups. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining. Thank you, everybody that stayed on this long. I know this was a long one, but I really wanted to make sure that we just kind of gave some time for you guys to see how amazing Rebecca is, so that hopefully you will choose to go that extra step and go a little bit deeper with spiral up. So thank you, everybody, for joining.